Winx Club should have used a more stylized animation technique. The Winx collab with Zara Larsson just came out, and it made it clear Winx chose to leave everything that made it great behind. Today, we'll look at the drastic change in Winx Club visual language and share technical insights into more stylized workflows that would allow Winx to retain its iconic style while sticking to the more modern 3D pipeline. Hello everyone, I'm Vikitor and I am a professional 3D animator that loves to talk about Winx and animation. Midnight Sun's new music video with Winx Club does feel like it has better animation. I do believe it was probably animated in-house by Rainbow, but as it puts the Winx girls in heels and outfits more reminiscent of the original Y2K aesthetic, I couldn't help but notice the characters just feel off. Why? Well, these characters just aren't the original Winx Club. The writing, of course, is partly responsible, but design-wise, I've already mentioned in one of my previous videos that their lines are a lot softer than the original Animator show. They have puffier cheeks, rounder eyes, and bodies that drift away from the original 2000s fashion sketches look. These music video outfits really contrast the more grounded, somewhat younger looking Winx Reboot designs. And honestly, originally I thought this design was Rainbow's way of getting with the times, following the trends set by Miraculous and other 2020s shows aimed at kids. But if you look at culture as a whole, I feel like things have been moving in a very different direction. The late 2000s are more in fashion than ever. Big performances are making a comeback in the pop scene with artists like Zara herself, Tate McRae, and Sabrina Carpenter. The original Winx Club has every reason to appeal to a modern audience in terms of art style and character design. But Vic, this is a kids show. To that I say, what are kids actually watching? In past interviews, Eugenio, the creator of Winx Club, has discussed animation becoming progressively for younger kids. But is that the case? K-Pop Demon Hunters was huge, and it didn't even get a wild amount of promotion when it first came out. While it eventually blew up amongst children, it was originally written with a teen and young adult audience in mind. It was made for K-pop fans. Only after it blew up among its primary target audience did it start reaching younger fans through social media and word of mouth. Some other huge animated movies and shows have come out recently, like the Spider-Verse series and Arcane, that appeal to everyone or even just more mature audiences. So then, is animation becoming for progressively younger audiences? Or are older kids and preteens just gravitating towards less dumbed down, more mature animated content? All these huge movies had their own very distinct art styles. Arcane was painterly, Spider-Verse was inspired by comic books, and K-Pop Demon Hunters was more traditionally 3D, but with an anime flair that shined through exaggerated expressions and more chibi moments. What's important to note about these art styles is that they break conventional established 3D tools and pipelines that have formed in the past 30 years. This is how they achieve new expressive looks. It's really hard to generalize 2D looking CG animation in a few techniques because it varies wildly based on the desired outcome. For this same reason, it's also hard to say whether said animation would be cheaper or more expensive. It all depends on choices. What's for sure is that it requires a very good understanding of CGI in order to be able to use these tools in ways different than intended. Could and should Winx have used a more stylized art style for its reboot? I would argue so. What would the characters even look like? If you're enjoying this video, by the way, please leave a like and subscribe for more behind the scenes animation content. The channel is still pretty new, it would greatly help out. And share this video with your Winxer friends if you think they'd be interested. So, what would the characters look like? There's a lot of range here. K-Pop Demon Hunters and Spider-Verse have a more stylized, but still distinctively 3D shading, meaning that the lights illuminate the characters somewhat realistically. If Rainbow wanted to stay closer to the original look, however, I would look at Precure, a Japanese magical girl anime, specifically the Futari wa Hagato crossover movie, which features beautiful 2D looking 3D that was actually designed with the intention of seamlessly transitioning from one medium to the other. Yes. What's on screen now is 3D models, not a drawing. This features a cel-shaded look, meaning that the light is mostly simplified in areas of light and areas of shadow, with a clear divide between them. This style is very common in Eastern anime-inspired animation and video games, and often includes line art as well, though it's not always necessary. What about the hair? Winx Club always had very voluminous but stylized hair, separated in big clumps. Physical 3D hair, called hair groom, uses curves to drive thousands of individual hairs. This can look really good, and has been used for Winx to some extent since the first movies. But that is not the only way to do 3D hair. K-pop Demon Hunters has individual hair strands, but they are driven by geometry and hand animated by animators to keep the more stylized shapes of the character designs intact. On the other hand, Arcane doesn't seem to use groom at all, choosing to animate painted geometry hair instead. Cards with painted hair and groom are used at best for added detail. The same is true for Precure. Hair is usually always modeled at some point in production to give the grooming artists and animators a reference when working, as we can see in the behind the scenes videos of the Winx Reboot. So they definitely already have a starting point for this style. The movement. 2D animation often cuts cost by animating at lower frame rates, as each drawing needs to be manually crafted. 3D animation gets rid of this issue, since the computer can automatically interpolate between key poses. This led to even cheaper productions having very smooth 24 frames per second movement, even if not always polished or intentional. Some of the more recent stylized animated projects, however, use a mixed frame rate to recreate the effect and add texture to the movements. In fact, even if the characters move every other frame, meaning 12 FPS, oftentimes the camera and other background elements will still move at 24 FPS, creating a very appealing contrast. This technique has a lot of potential because at any point you can increase and decrease the frame rate to fit your creative needs. In this shot of Precure, the teddy bear chasing them has a slower frame rate than the main characters, to emphasize its size and weight. Bigger objects tend to move slower in stylized animation. I have used this technique myself in my own short film Ellis Reflection. It will come out on the channel soon, so definitely watch out for that. The character moves at 12 FPS, but the background and even its lights on the character move at 24. As you may have noticed, mirror frames and drawn movement streaks can also be used in conjunction with this technique to make the movements more expressive and legible, as some details may otherwise get lost with fewer frames. Smear frames in general can also be used on 24 FPS animation to achieve a more stylized look. While I do personally love the classic 3D animated look when done right, I think Winx in particular would have looked great with one of these stylized techniques, which would have both honored the original style and made it more modern and accessible to new audiences. But most of all, it would have kept the iconic and recognizable art style that made it great in the first place. What do you think? Which of these styles would you have liked Winx to use? Did you like the recent Zara Larsson collab? Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and share with your Winxer friends if they'd be interested. My name is Vikitor, I am a professional 3D animator that loves to talk about Winx and animation, and bye bye!